You're right.
Yeah, no.
So the $10 million question. What's from your point of view? What happened with the Roger Rogerson situation with you? Your involvement with him?
Well, mate, he come up here when that last trouble happened with him. He was up here as a celebrity guest to the boxing night we had, and but he'd been here a lot. When we went away and done gigs, he would stay here and we'd go away together. I'd become quite friendly with him. He's just a lovely man, you know, and highly intelligent. And one night we had the fights. We come back here after, had a few drinks, and I got up the next morning. He was gone. Never seen him. And then I turned the TV on. Next thing, the coppers are looking for him everywhere. And I'm thinking he was here, but he's gone now. And then someone rang me and said I left my keys in the gym where we had the fight, so I went down to open up and let them in. Channel 9 from Sydney were there, and they wanted an interview. Next thing, I had the coppers come down, and they took me from the gym, 6 of them, 2 cars, brought me out here. There was a couple of coppers at the back and one out the front, and they went right through the place, turned it inside out, and they were quite good to me. They told me that they knew who I was and what I'd done, and they were just looking for him. And I said, "Oh well, he's gone, but you're welcome to look." I said, "He left this morning, and I haven't seen him since." I went to bed and he was gone when I got up. So that's what happened there. But for the bloke to have killed the bloke the day before, he was very, very calm. I know he shot plenty of shitbags before in drug dealing, drugs and all that, but saved the taxpayers' money. But you could have knocked me over a feather to think that he'd shot someone.
Do you think he did it?
Well, I don't know. I really don't know. I suppose if he had to, he could. But talking to him, and like, you think if you killed someone, you'd show a bit of remorse, or you wouldn't be your jovial self.
Yeah, but the one point that I made to Mark about it when I was speaking to Mark was that the amount of methamphetamine is $2 million. That would have been a pretty good pension for somebody, wouldn't it?
Yeah, not that he was rich. That's why he'd done the public speaking. But he wouldn't have been broke. He would have owned his home and he would have got a pension and whatever. But I suppose, like, it's not something I'd do. I wouldn't even smoke a marijuana joint. If you said here's 20,000, smoke that joint, I wouldn't do it out of principle. But
yeah,
I suppose we're all different. But it's just that I'm dirty on drugs. But mate, for the life of me, when he left here, if he had told me he killed someone, I wouldn't believe it. But they're pretty sure he did.
Yeah, no, okay. So that brings us on to another character, and a lot of people, when I ask the question, they pretty much say the same thing. So, me knowing you, and I know you can level with me. What was your opinion on Chopper Read, on the man, like the difference between the man and the legend, and who do you think, what type of guy was he in your opinion?
Mate, when I first met him, I found him quite intelligent and all right. And all he was doing was trying to get a quid, even though he used his time in jail. And I really think that the only reason he cut his ears off to get away from someone in the cell that wanted to make love to him or do whatever. But it was just an excuse to get out of there. And that made him famous. But early days with him, because I spent a fair bit of time with him, and he often ate here. He'd eat here a few times a week. But one thing about him is he come up one time and we were doing a gig in Gympie, and the next day we were going to just short of Toowoomba. Name of the place just eludes me at the minute. But anyway, cut a long story short, he brought this bloke with him that he met in prison called Novak. And he was a greasy, slippery-looking bastard, long black hair and grubby-looking bastard, and supposed to be a bouncer. So when we went to Gympie, I got Vic to come down and watch the show. And Vic brought his son with him. Now Vic's got 3 sets of kids. He's got them 50 and 48. He's got them 28 and 30, and then he's got them 6 and 8. But the youngest boy, the middle one, is gay, and he brought him with him. And he come out to the back room, and he was talking to Chopper, and Vic's son was with us, and so the next day we're driving to Clifton. The name of the place was. We're driving from Gympie to Clifton, and I didn't go much on this Novak at all. I didn't like him at all. You if you've seen him, you'd know why. But he started putting shit on Vic's kid for being gay, and I blew straight up. I said, listen here, I said, I'm going to tell you something about life. I said, it doesn't matter how smart the parents are or what they do. I said, they can be born with Down syndrome, they can be born gay, and they got no control over it, and they can be born stupid. And I said, I'm going to tell you something. I'd rather be born gay than stupid like you fucking idiot. Pull this car over and I'm going to bash this car. So, but the moment that Novak come on board, he obviously got chopped back on the drugs. And I had a falling out with him at the Weipa airport on something he said about something, and I just said to Mark, I don't want to be with him anymore. I don't give a fuck how much he pays me. I couldn't care.
So how much of the Chopper Reed persona was bullshit, and how much of it was real? And
Mate,
and you know,
it's
you are,
hard
to me, you are a real hard man, and you're not somebody who's ever done any drugs or any shit
No.
like that in your life. You're a genuine hard man, and his persona is a hard man. But in your opinion, was he real or was it bullshit?
I think anyone can be a hard man with a gun in your hand, and he obviously shot a few people, one people, or wounded somebody. I'm not sure, but a lot of he was a showman, and a lot of stories I'm sure that he exaggerated on, and he run to the old tale, never spoil a good story with the truth. And I think mixed in with all the stories he told, there was a lot of bullshit.
But could he use his hands?
No,
from what you understood?
I wouldn't think he beat anybody.
No?
No, I wouldn't think. Especially when, you know, he's not as old as me, but when I seen him, I don't know how long ago, maybe 10, 15 years ago or something, but he certainly wouldn't have, he didn't look like he'd frighten anyone at that stage, you know. Only thing that stuck out of him was that the fact he had no ears, you know, and everyone knew it was Chopper Reed, and he was recognisable, and he was saleable. If I put my name out in front of the pub that I'm going to be here tonight, no one would come up, but you put Chopper Reed's name out and they'd stack the joint. So even though he made this money out of his crimes that he's in the previous life that he had, at least he's making his own money and paying his own taxes, you know.
Yeah, but you know, like the other night we were talking about that from the more that I learn about him from Mark and from you guys on the inside, it seems that Chopper was more like Papillon, like he had a good story, but he kind of changed the details, and he drew from other things, and he was more like a writer, a smart writer, raconteur writer than he actually was any of the criminal fucking mastermind tough men.
Yeah, exactly. Mate, he could think up a story, and don't worry, mate, he'd remember it and repeat it the same way all the time, you know.
Yeah.
So, but he probably in his 20s, he was probably a tough bloke, you know. But I didn't know him then. I only know what I've seen, and I know some of the stories he exaggerated on. Couldn't possibly be true, you know.
So with the drugs, you said that this guy got back onto the drugs. It got to a point where it was obvious to you that Chopper was under the influence of drugs, and it was fucking up his life.
Yeah, and the things he said, you know, like things he'd say, like where he wouldn't say them prior, like he was.
For example.
I just in loud mouth fashion putting people down with different things, you know, well known people, you know.